continue in the 12th letter. In this letter, speaking about tzedakah, charity, excuse me, through our charity, we can create peace above by our act of charity. The act of giving brings life, brings graciousness, kindness, and compassion to those that don't have. And through that, that brings now in the heavenly spheres that any negative decree or a negative decree can now be sweetened, that the severities could be sweetened through this act. That's above. And then below, likewise, we bring peace down here. What does it mean, peace down here? Peace down here. Well, the metaphor or the example, not through the act of charity, but through study of Torah. When we study Torah for its own sake, in other words, to create peace, not for our sake of, becoming smarter or becoming, having a self-help book to teach me, and so on, but in order to create peace, meaning peace above, as we explained, harmonious relationship between Gvura and Chesed above, and peace down here below. So peace down here below, what does that mean exactly? Well, what we have explained in the previous class was peace down here we're not going to have until Mashiach comes, when all of evil will be eradicated and then there'll be true peace. And here we don't mean peace versus war, right? War and peace, and therefore there will be no more war. There'll be no. It's a different kind of peace that we're talking about over here. That is accomplished. One way accomplished is through the study of Torah, because through the study of Torah we bring a refinement to ourselves in the study of Torah, right? Now, so this refinement that we create, right, that the good is separated from the evil, will again be ultimately revealed in the times of Mashiach, when the light of God will be so clear in this world that this earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, and therefore the glory and the presence of God will be revealed. That's in regard to the future. But how about now? Where do we have that experience now? Down here, you and I. Says the Alter Rebbe, this is in the time when we can find a propitious time that we can find God. Well, when can you find God? I mean, of course you can find him any time, but when is a propitious time to find God? Prayer. When you can seclude your mind from the world and attach yourself to your Maker. Every individual, according to what they're capable of, we're granted a foretaste of the refinement that we would have through studying Torah for its own sake, as we mentioned, studying Torah for its own sake, right? That divine revelation permeates our soul and enables us to refine and elevate the good from the evil. So in other words, when we learn Torah like we're learning now for its own sake, in other words, to create peace, a refinement in the spiritual realm, as we said, coalescing the judgment that might be there with kindness, and therefore sweetening the severities. Down here, creating a refinement in me, right? What is the refinement? That I'm removing the negativity within me in order to bring out the good. And that's when we learn Torah in such a way. Where will we have that kind of experience? It will be really only in the times to come of Mashiach. So in this self-refinement of being now the goodness of us, that we feel connected to our Maker, that's going to be in time of prayer. Says now the Alter Rebbe, the same can also be accomplished. Now there's this refinement that we're talking about. That you learn Torah for its own sake. And then when you pray, you can have that connectivity to Hashem in a manner that there is an experience of what will be in the times of Mashiach. The same can be accomplished through tzedakah, charity. As we related in a couple letters ago, that the Talmud tells us that Rabbi Lozer, he would give a coin to the poor, and then he would pray. As the verse says, through tzedek will I behold your countenance. It's through the act of righteousness, by giving, charity, I will be able to be granted that during prayer I could behold the countenance of God, the innermost aspect of godliness. It says that's what it means, panecha, to excuse me, to behold your countenance, your face. Right? Faces come from the word panim. Panim means panemius, inwardness. So we can behold the inwardness of God. So this revelation during prayer, manifestation of this great light of God that we have produced through giving, right? Allows us now through our prayer that we can use our minds to intellectually generate a love and awe of God. And through this, right, giving charity, then coming to pray, that you can touch the inwardness of God, that you can then understand with your mind, that will feed your heart a connection, a feeling of connection to God in your prayer. And through this, the good that's extracted for God and elevated to Him, and separate you, and the evil is separated. That's what we accomplish. This is like a crucible for refining silver and the melting pot for gold. This is the refinement that happens. That, again, by the act of giving charity, to then beholding, and through that allows us to have the refinement in our prayer, that we can meditate upon God's greatness to bring an experience in our prayer of connection that has love and awe in it. Because that enabled us to take away the self-love, that can feel a love for God. Whew, he said a lot there. So, what do we have here? We're still in the middle of a thought. Now we can have a self-refinement something that we can experience similar to what will be in the times to come of Mashiach. We can have it when we learn Torah for its own sake. Then we can experience that in prayer, or by the act of giving charity. By the act of giving, and then we pray, we can create. What does peace mean? So peace on high means two different attributes that they coalesce them. Peace down here is very different, because up there's no evil. Here there's evil. So here it means refinement. Up there's a refinement of coalescing, of the positive. Here there's negativity in this world, right? There's klipa in me, klipa in the world. So when I study Torah for the right reason of creating that peace, that refinement above, and the refinement here that I can remove the negativity, the evil that is naturally controlling the world. And I learn that way. Or if I give tzedakah, just in the act of giving, right, that itself is also refinement in such a manner that when I come to pray, either prefaced by the learning or prefaced by the act of tzedakah, and that's where we're going, that even in the simple act of tzedakah will allow for this self-refinement of where we can create peace. Peace meaning taking away piece by piece negativity, evil from this world, right? So we will have an experience of that negativity that's removed from me, from the world, that when I pray and I'm focused, I'm secluded in my thoughts and words in connecting to God, they can have a sense of peace. Not just peace of mind, much more deeper than that. A peace that there's only but goodness. Wow. A peace that there's only goodness. Just as like will be in the times of Mashiach. A sense of that there's only but God's presence. Whole, complete, worthy. Wow. Amazing. TRC tonight, you don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. That I could tell you. I don't want to miss it. Torah studies at 6:30. TRC at 8 o'clock. And of course, Rambam coming up. Questions? Okay. Vida, this is the first question I see. Is it a spiritual peace? Yes. As just described, that was an earlier question, of course. Is it refinement of the individual in studying Torah bring Mashiach in a peaceful way? Absolutely. Yes. Denise. Davida, since we are all one, what happens if someone doesn't give charity or praise by rote? Does it hamper the coming Mashiach even from the people who do give charity and praise sincerely? Yeah, that's why we need to influence, the world. Yes, it's true. That's why we need to inspire. That's why we need to inspire. Absolutely. Correct. Let's see on Instagram. We'll get to Clubhouse in a moment. I don't see a question on Instagram. Oh, Alan. Alan, please share with us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Rabbi. So you started with Oseh Shalom Bim Ramav, makes peace in high places, And Bim Ramav, could also be thought of as in terms of priority, like having it first and foremost, high in your estimation, high in your priority, So, if you want to really achieve something, I think you need to make it a priority, So if, in terms of tzedakah that we're talking about, for making peace, you have to make it a priority. It has to be first and foremost in your mind, because otherwise you might skip over it.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. I say Shalom Bimrei Mab. In other words, it's on high, meaning it's first. It's a priority. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's interesting is, that the sense of peace that the Alter Rebbe is speaking about, though, is a very profound idea of peace. It's not a peace of mind. It's not peace from war. It's not, just sort of like a relaxed moment, of peace. It's a very profound idea that the real idea, actually, let's go a step further or back. How come there's war? Why is there people that don't have peace of mind? Why is it that we're full of anxiousness, frustrations? Why is that? It's because in us and in our lives, in the world around us, there's negative forces. There's klipa. And that klipa has great power. Klipa is the shell that covers over on the truth, on the inner power or the inner light and the inner life force that God animates everything. And it's covering over of that. Because it's covering over, we become anxious. We become frustrated. We have no peace. But when we refine ourselves from that, and here are the two ways that the Alter Rebbe gave. One was through Torah studies we're doing now, but Torah study lishma, not Torah study so you could be scholarly, not Torah study so you could feel good about yourself. That's self-directed. That's not lishma. That's not God-directed. God-directed is to bring refinement on high, and refinement down here. And the refinement in us, meaning that it will allow us to take the good and remove it from the negativity, from the evil, and to elevate it. So that's what in Torah study, right, that we are doing, that we're taking, that gives us the capacity that we can take away the negative from within us and not allow that, whether it's anxiousness, frustration, whether it's expectations, all those things that come from klipa, that we remove ourselves when we learn Torah, that we should refine ourselves from that. And that then, or, that's one way, or by giving tzedakah. By giving tzedakah, charity, we also accomplish that. That's called the act of tzedakah. And then that will give us the capability that when we actually pray, we could experience some form of peace, meaning that the negative forces are not all over us. And what we're sensing in our seclusion with God in prayer, that we are connected, there's only goodness of God and only our goodness too, ultimately, that we're whole, we're complete, we are worthy. As we've been going through TRC, for this, right? So that's a very powerful. It's very powerful. I hope that's all understood and appreciated. But yes, thank you, Alan. That's you always say Shalom B'Mreimav. We need to know the priority, and this is the priority. Exactly. So Davida, if Mashiach is coming, which he is coming, so it's not if, Mashiach is coming. So charity and prayer, they hasten. Why hasn't he come before when people were truly involved in giving tzedakah and deep in prayer? Very good question, Davida. Ultimately, I don't have an answer for that because it doesn't make sense to me either. I agree with you totally. Totally doesn't make sense. But we had such lofty souls of previous generations, and Mashiach didn't come, where they gave their last coin to charity, and even when they didn't have, they still gave. And we're definitely not as lofty souls. So maybe that's the answer itself, being that we're not so lofty, and yet we rise. Maybe not as qualitatively as previous generation, but the very fact that we rise above the human condition, that the human condition now, the darkness is so palpable, it's so real, the darkness of the world, that we rise above and live this in any way, that's remarkable. Not only it's remarkable, it's really beautiful. So it's, in the way it's the opposite is, the Alter Rebbe is Chassidim. We're learning Tanya. He wrote it in 1798. Right? It's more applicable today than it was even probably back then. His teachings. That's called truth. Right? Not some kind of self-help book that was good for some time period and then afterwards, we need to find something else. There's more people learning Tanya today than ever before, even in the times of the Alter Rebbe. Yet that being said, their application of the teachings, their capability to meditate, I meditate every day as we've spoken about, and try to focus. My capability is very limited. Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, they could spend 5 hours an idea and not be moved by anything that would take away their concentration, their focus. Hey, can we do 5 minutes?
Rabbi, fine.
Big challenge. Yes, Alan.
So I had another thought, and I don't know where to go with it really, but it's almost like that, we're set up by Hashem to receive, to kibel his goodness.
Right.
But we can almost drown in it, because there's so much, and so we almost need to give in order to survive, just because otherwise there would be so much that we'll be receiving without limit that we have to give, because otherwise we mamish might not survive,
Right. So that's I like what you say. We should, as Alan said, we should open up our eyes to such a way that all we see is God giving us, that we are the recipient, right? Mikabel, like you said, we are the recipient of such wonderment, such gifts from above, from God, that we are like, oh my gosh. And really, it happens to be the very truth. And when we don't see that, first of all, we're not seeing the truth. Secondly, oh, how crippling that is, actually, right? When you don't see that you're being showered with such unbelievable things in your life, right? We don't have to go any further than life itself, but upon that, showered every moment. And when we can open our eyes and see that, then the natural thing is, first of all, to thank God. But then upon that, it's not enough just to thank, is then to give. Because why were you showered with such life? So you can bestow life upon another. You can be gracious to another. God is so gracious. So I should be gracious. I should be kind. I should be compassionate. I should be giving. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Amazing, folks. All right, folks. We got Rambam now, so we're moving on. A reminder, 6:30, Torah studies. You don't want to miss it. 6:30 on Zoom or on Facebook, Chabad ZK, and then TRC for those who've signed up. Today's a good day to sign up. If you haven't and you would like, and if there's some issue, direct message me if there's something that you need to talk to me, or in order that you should to join. Of course, go to tanyarabbi.com or .org, and you see more about that. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kedeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing day, a good tavoch, a good week to everybody. Be well.